For the first one, it says you're going to solve for x. So that means everything that's not x, it's got to go to the other side of the equation. So that means that the y has got to get subtracted. Let's see here. So the y is going to get subtracted, the k is going to get subtracted, and that happens on both sides of the equation. Subtraction of y, subtraction of k. Remember, everything goes across the equal sign. And that will just leave x on the right side. So it's u, because u is already there, minus y minus k. Now, one thing that you'll find with these multiple choice tests is it always puts the x or the variable on the left side. So in this case, this would be what you'd find like this. And that also is true for the inequalities. It will always put the x on the left. So if you solve it and you end up with x on the right, you got to switch it around. So for number 2, again, you have a b, so you're going to subtract the b away from both sides. And so, as I was pointing out to Chris earlier, there's a little trick that we were supposed to get in junior high, and that is when you have a fraction equal to a fraction, you're able to swap the diagonals. So you can bring that a up to the top, and then you bring u minus b down to the bottom. That's probably the easiest way to do that. So a goes where u minus b was, and u minus b goes where a was. And there you go. So the addition and subtraction ones tend to be easier, right? And this would be probably the hardest one. Okay, so for the rest of the equations, remember our tools are combine like terms, distributive property. Try to get it down to a two-step equation. So on number 3, I'm going to add together the n and the 7n to give me 8n. And there, look, I'm already at a two-step equation. So take away 8, and you've got 8n equals negative 24, and finally divide by 8. Okay? Number 4, when you try to combine like terms, you end up with 0. And that's not true. So there would be no value of n that would make this true. This is just not possible. So we'll write no solution. And that could be one of the answer choices in the multiple choice. Actually, I shouldn't write that they're equal. I'll put a little slash through it. They're not equal to each other. That's the problem. Okay, now that we're at the end of the course, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Sometimes you can get away with not distributing. Here's what I mean. If I just divided by 3 at the beginning, 3 will go into 96 evenly. Did you try distributing? If you did, that's fine. But if you notice that the 3 will go into 96, or that the number will go in there, then you don't have to distribute. You can just write that as 3 goes into 9, 3 times 3 goes into 6, twice is actually 32. That's 4 minus 4x. If that saves you a little time, good for you. Take away 4 from both sides. Okay, so 28 is negative 4x. This cancels. And then divide by negative 4. So it looks like x is negative 7. Now, that little trick I showed you, it only works when you don't have extra stuff over there. So like on number 6, I wouldn't do that because I have a plus 1. I have to add this 1. I have to get rid of that Okay, before I could even think of doing that little trick. So does 3 go into 129 evenly? There's a quick way to check. Add the digits, 1 plus 2 plus 9. If that number, which would be what, 12, if that number can be divided by 3, then 3 will go into the original number. So I could avoid, again, distributive property. I could just divide by -3 right now. Just to give you some variety, though, I'm going to distribute on this one. Okay, and then we're going to add our 15. We're down to a two-step equation already. And let's see, that'd be 4, carry the 1, 4, and a 1. So 18 going to 144. Oops, 18n. 144 divided by 18. 144 divided by 18.
The answer is 8.
8. So since that was a -18, n equals -8. You can always distribute. Okay, I would say don't use a shortcut unless you're really comfortable using it. When you got x on both sides, the advice from way back, first semester, was get rid of the smaller x. 8x is smaller, get rid of that one. And let's see, that would be what, 28? Right? No, 27. Two-step equation now, take away the 14, we got -54. Is 27x. That will go 2 times. So it'd be -2. I could do the shortcut here. I could divide by 3. But I'll go ahead and do the distributive property. Again, just get rid of the smaller n, which is 3n. And divide by 3. Probably would say n equals -1 on the multiple choice. Okay, any questions so far? All right, backside. Now, here's the major thing with inequalities is when you divide by a negative, you got to switch it to the opposite. You got to switch the inequality going the other way. So divide by -13, and then x switches to greater than or equal to 169 divided by 13. 13 times 13 is 169, so that should be 13. Now, these ones just say solve each inequality. They don't say graph it. The ones at the bottom will graph. Okay, number 10, you would multiply by 9. Because you multiplied by a positive number, the inequality stays the same. 15 times 9, 135. So they act just like equations, except if you divide or multiply by a negative. If you add something, that will never switch it around. Okay, but here's the problem. On the multiple choice, it will always put the x on the left. So you're going to have to switch this around. And remember, this is easy. When you switch sides, whatever direction the arrow was pointing toward, whatever it was pointing toward, like it's pointing toward the X, when you switch it around, it still points to the X. So this has to go the other way like that. And we're going to divide by negative 13. Even the fact that this turns out to be a 0 on the right side, because we divided by a negative, the inequality must switch the other direction. So those were pretty fast to do. Okay, the last set also says graph the solution. So this is one-dimensional graphing. This is where you're going to either have the closed dot or the open circle on the number, and then you're going to shade to the right or to the left. Now, in the multiple choice, what it will do is it will give you the inequality, and then next to it, give you a potential graph that goes with that. So you've got to match the solution and the graph to the answer. So these are multi-step. I'll go ahead and keep distributing. 3 minus 24x less than or equal to 195. Assuming you're going to have a calculator on this, so take away 3. 192, and 24 will go in there evenly. It goes 8 times, but now look, we just divided by a negative. And when you divide by a negative, the inequality switches the other way. On the graph of that, it's going to be, I'll just do a real simple one. It's going to be a closed dot on there, and then you're going to see some shading. Remember, if you have the X on the left, then the inequality shows you what direction to shade. You'd shade this one to the right because the arrow is pointing to the right. We'll distribute the 8 here, 8x plus 48. And I think 48 times 2 is 96. So this will be 48 again. Inequality does not change when you subtract. I'll divide by 8, and we got 6. Again, for a number line, you're going to have 6. It'll be a closed dot. Well, I should do it here in green. It'll be a closed dot, and this one is shading also to the right. Okay, last two got a little complicated now. We're going to distribute. Oops, wait a minute. 7 times 8, 56, and minus 6. Okay, combine like terms, put the 7 and the negative 6 together, that would be 1. Take away 1. Does that go evenly? Yeah, goes 5 times. So again, we're dividing by a negative, so that inequality is going to switch. It will go to the right, and on the right side will be n. However, that's not how we need it when we're going to graph the solution. We got to switch it around. We got to put the 8 on the right and the n on the left, and the inequality will still point to the n. So it will go like this. And that means that when you look at the graph, 8, now because it's not equal to, because it's just less than, you're going to have an open circle. And then now, because the n is on the left, all by itself, The inequality shows you the direction to shade. Shade to the left. Okay, last one. Just about as complicated, so we're going to distribute. So that would be 12 plus 24p. I can combine like terms. I have negative p, I have 24p, so that'll be 23p. I'm going to take away 12. And that would be, let's see, 138. I'm assuming 138 can be divided by 23, and it's 6 times. So 6 is less than p. I got to switch it around for the graphing and to match the answer. So p will go on the left, 6 will go on the right. Originally, the arrow was pointing toward the 6, so when I switch it around, the arrow is still pointing toward the 6. That'll be an open circle because it doesn't say it's equal to 6. And because it's a greater than, it's going to point to the right.